Good afternoon. Today on the Closers platform, the interviewer is interviewing the interviewer. Bill Risser, our Vice President of Digital Strategies, with me today from the Closers platform. We both work for Fidelity National Financial. And Bill, my first question is, why are you quitting our company today after 20 years?
I didn't know you were going to go that route. But hold on.
Oh, wow.
Jason, do me a favor. Can you switch this for me? We talked about this. Because you're interviewing an interviewer? I think not. In fact, the interviewer is interviewing the interviewee.
Oh, no.
Look at, there we go, the Real Estate Sessions podcast.
Wow.
I have 250
You have abducted
episodes.
my Closers platform.
I have been dying to ask you some questions.
Oh, wow.
Now, fortunately, I'll
And we're live today. We're live today. Yeah, thanks, Jason.
You're
Thanks.
right.
Thanks.
Fortunately, the questions I'll ask you are not from certain people that work in this area.
Good,
because,
thank you.
Yeah, because that would be really weird. But there we go. We're back to where we should be. That's perfect. So, look, Susan, here we go. I want to ask. Here we go. It's very simple. Where did you grow up? Are you a native of Florida?
No,
Okay.
I was born in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh.
Oh, so you're
Pennsylvania.
a Western Pennsylvania kind of person.
Yes.
Pittsburgh. So does that mean Steelers, Flyers?
No, my sister honestly is one of those, sorry Jane, crazy Steelers fans. I really don't care.
About sports, period?
I care, but don't care.
Okay.
Really don't care.
All right.
But I was in kindergarten when we moved to Florida, and we moved to Venice, Florida, right south of Sarasota, which you're familiar with, on the west coast of Florida.
Yeah, beautiful area. Minnesota
Yes.
Key, right?
Yes.
On Stumps Pass Park, a little farther south.
Yes,
Yeah.
but Venice they called newlywed or nearly dead. That's what they called. And I graduated high school there.
Okay.
And was married there.
Okay.
And yes, that's where it started.
So you get to Florida. Talk about, Venice is kind of like you said. It's either new people there. What was it like? What was it like going to school there?
So let me just paint a picture for you.
Yeah, give me that look.
I was the youngest of four, and my parents, obviously we lived in Pennsylvania, got divorced. My grandparents were in Venice,
Okay, that makes sense.
and my mom moved us to Florida, to Venice, and we lived on the corner of San Marco Drive, and there were these amazingly huge palm trees we had to walk past that was very frightening as a first grader to get to my grandparents' house, but everything was in walking distance. So I need you to know that my mom was a nurse and in the emergency room. So we lived here. My mom could walk across the street to work. My grandparents lived down the street, and us kids could ride our bikes to school because we didn't have a car.
Wow.
So we were a little broke, I would suggest, but we came here to be close to family.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. Your grandparents obviously had grown up in Pittsburgh, but made that move down, and so you're just following along a little bit earlier than maybe you anticipated, right?
And we had a small home, and my sisters had a room. Well, my sister and I shared a room. My other sister shared a room with my mom, and my brother at the time actually slept in what was kind of a dining room that was just kind of off the, just out of the way, but no real door or anything. So that was where we started.
Let me ask you, what was 15-year-old Susan thinking about doing with her life?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're asking me this question, because 15-year-old Susan, actually, I was in a drug rehab, so you don't know that about me. I was in the LIFE program, also in the Sarasota County market, and yes, so that's where I was. Life, maybe not in the way that you would think, because I'm not sure that, I drink now. It was years. So I'll just keep talking until you ask me another question. I was probably 26 before I had my first drink.
Okay.
And because I was concerned. My mother was an alcoholic. There was alcoholism, pretty significantly in my family.
Well, the fact that she recognized something and saw something there and at the age of 15 insisted that you do this program, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. She might have been actively drinking a lot of that time. However, there was some dysfunction there. But love my mom and love what she did for me and did for herself later. And I have, a conversation. We can talk about that as well. My mom died at 83, let's call it. And she, a couple years before she passed away, started drinking excessively again, ended up in the hospital. Doctor said, Susie, you are not going to survive if you drink again. And my mom at 81 went back to AA, and she needed a program. Not everybody needs a program daily, but my mom did. And at her funeral, there was a wide variety of folks at my mom's funeral, from the Harley type, just a wide variety of a handful of people that said.
Some of the friends of Bill as well were
Friends
there.
of Bill, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with that expression, the friends of Bill.
It runs in my family as well.
Exactly. So they just said, your mom at 81 impacted our lives. So I think a lot of who I am realizes how dysfunctional people can be, but my mom, in all of her dysfunction, gave so much to people and meant so much to people. So again, 15, your original question, was in a drug program, and really what it did for me, because I drink now, I'm very aware. People will say, one thing that Stevie said from our company one time is, Susan, whenever we all go out, you're there for a while, and all of a sudden I look up and you're gone. And I said, because I just never take that part of life to excess. I just believe in not drinking to excess, but having a good time and being the life of the party and all those things is really fun. But there's a limit for me, because I'm really aware of what not having limits can do. And we could also talk all day that my mom, clinically, I believe that there are there's physical proof that there's something in your brain that's triggered when you're an alcoholic. And when my mom watched that film when she was in treatment, and she realized that it wasn't about strength or weakness, it was about something that was in her brain that made her an alcoholic, then she was able to say, wait a minute, I can stop this with treatment and help. So a lot of journeys with that. But what the Life program really did for me is it taught me something called rational self-analysis. It taught me how my mind really makes a difference on what I think and what I feel and what I do and how I behave. And changing the smallest of our thoughts can change us in ways that impacts us drastically.
You use that
know.
On your sales team.
I
you
know.
know that, right? I've watched you in action with your amazing sales team, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But before I get there, many people in the title world started right away. Was that you? What was your first gig? What was your first job?
No, my first gig, Burger Queen at 15, honestly. And then I actually worked at the Life program as a counselor. I graduated and counseled there for several years. And started to do a little bit of college, but my parents were in Africa, actually, at the time that it was time for me to go to college. And so I didn't have a lot of support as far as what direction to go in. So dabbled a little bit in community college, and then ended up working at a bank as a teller. My dad was always so proud of me because I loved math superstar in 3rd grade, and one of his fondest memories and my fondest memories of my dad was I could add up the tab at McDonald's quicker than the lady could generally do it on the cash register. So that's a fond memory with my dad. So being a bank teller just worked, and honestly worked my way up as a bank teller, and there was an opportunity in the mortgage department as a receptionist. So I transferred to the receptionist in the mortgage department, and then I wanted to be a processor, and they said if I went to night school to a typing class, because I was a horrible typist, that they would let me be a processor. And in those days, Bill, we had the 3-page carbon copy, and you had to type this.
So the official word was triplicate?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just
all right, sorry. Triplicate.
That's okay.
Okay,
I'm just making sure.
You got me. Triplicate, and you had to type this long paragraph, which started with "that notwithstanding." And honest to goodness, I just couldn't do it. Like, I would type, and you couldn't use whiteout, you couldn't backspace, you couldn't do any of that, and it was a panic for me. But I got past that, was able to type, and then worked my way up. They created a position for me, an assumption modification department that they were going to have me lead. I was young, put me at Boca Raton Bath and...
How old are you at this point?
20-ish.
20-ish? They're building a department for you.
Yes. Well, they had a department, and there was a woman, her name was Edith, that ran it, and they were creating...
I'm just going to guess Edith wasn't 20.
No, she was not.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Good.
And they were going to let me run it with her. So they sent me to Boca Raton for 3 months of training. I actually got to stay stay at Boca Raton Bath and Racket Country Club.
Okay.
They would fly me back and forth on a small TWA plane for if I
Trans World
wanted to come
Airline
back.
for those younger people watching the show. They're not around anymore
and,
either. Okay, good.
I learned the department, and then literally when that was over, they dissolved the department because they were acquired.
Wow. Well, somehow we got to get you to title, because I know you. Was Chelsea Title the first title company you worked with?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
How does that come into the picture?
So I'm at the bank. I, at this point, promoted, and I was running the closing, post-closing, delivery to secondary market department for the bank. Loved every piece of that. They were acquired at the time by SunTrust, cutting my job in half, but not my pay. Didn't feel as motivating at the time for me. I actually have to tell you this too. My first day, I get married and finish my honeymoon, come to work to the bank, and literally my divorce was final on Good Friday on the last day that I worked at the bank. So this was just this chapter in my life. But what happened, they were acquired. I was getting a little unsettled, unhappy. They asked me to do a charity event to raise money for March of Dimes. So I put on this event and I did a luncheon. And I invited all of our vendors. And I had no idea that inviting the title company, they were so excited that they received an invite from the mortgage department. So title company, surveyors, and literally, Bill, I had people make food, and I worked the room, but I didn't know I was working the room. I was just being me. Just filling up coffee, filling up water, clearing plates, and I got a call the next day from Chelsea Title.
Somebody saw what you were doing
Barry
and said,
Mazer,
we need her
Golda
on our team.
Radefeld called me and said, we want to know if you'll come work for us and do sales. And I'm like, I've never done sales in my life. They're like, oh, yes, you have. You just did sales.
How old are you at this point?
I must have been, so I've been with the company 27 years, so let's just back into that. 28?
Okay, so you're like
35? Yeah, 28.
So you're 28 years old.
Yes.
You're doing something a little bit different. Still in the industry, kind of still there.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that. How did that first year look? I mean,
well, it's something I had never done before, and I really didn't. And this is not meant at all to be offensive, but I was really concerned about not delivering donuts and not just being this salesperson that came in and bounced in and said, "Hey, how can I help?"
You did not want to be that person?
I did not want to be that person.
You know, at that time frame, that's all anyone wanted to do.
Right.
Okay.
I did not want to be that person.
Wow.
So my first day at Chelsea Title, we were teaching a class on how to calculate rates. So how do we come up with these promulgated rates? So I literally, on my living room floor, did a flip chart. Promulgated rate, this is what it means. Owner's policy, mortgagee policy, this is what they mean, and this is how you calculate it. $5.75 per thousand. So I did a flip chart because I wanted to really go in and add value. And I taught the class to these real estate agents. And at the end I said, I'm not giving you rate cards. I don't want you to calculate these rates yourself. I just want you to know what goes behind the scenes for us to give you a quote. But I really want you to call me.
That's great.
Because if you need a quote, call me. Yeah. So in my world, I did sales for Sarasota County and Manatee County.
Okay.
So Sarasota County, I'd wear my banker outfit. And in Manatee County, I could wear jeans and cowboy boots if I wanted to, cowgirl boots if I wanted to. Yeah. So they were two separate markets, so I learned very quickly how just crossing the border, for lack of a better way to say it, from Sarasota to Manatee County, you needed to really change, not who you were. I needed to be true to who I was, but I needed to speak to a different audience that needed something different from me. So that was my entrance to title.
So you're acquired. Chelsea Title is acquired by Fidelity.
So luckily, before we were acquired, I got remarried, moved to Orlando, and Castleberry was actually the headquarters for Chelsea Title. Chelsea Title was owned by PMI out of San Francisco, California, and they were acquired. Chelsea Title, American Pioneer was the underwriter, and American Pioneer was acquired by Fidelity National Title, and our direct operations were part of that acquisition.
Gotcha. So when those things happen, and I was part of an acquisition myself. When I first started, it was Fidelity and Chicago coming together. And fortunately, Fidelity really kind of likes keeping the brands separate, right? Multiple brands are a good thing in the field. You put them together, it never goes 10-10, it turns into 20 share. 10-10 turns into 15. Keep them out there and let them work hard against each other. How do you survive that? I mean, was there some trepidation that, oh my gosh?
Oh no, there was you're not going to have a job anymore, Susan, actually.
Let's talk about that.
So I was over. By that time, I'd worked my way up also, the same way I did in the bank. I worked my way up at Chelsea Title, and I was running the direct operations for the state of Florida.
Awesome.
So I had operations on the East Coast, Central Florida, and the West Coast. So it's going to happen. The acquisition has happened, and Erica Meinhardt at the time, I was going to take her around because the sale was not final yet, and because the sale wasn't final, I took her around to all my branches.
And this is 2000 what?
3.
Okay, good.
Right at the end of 3.
Good.
So I take her, start on the West Coast with my top branches, Venice, which we talked about. And at our first meeting with Golda, love Golda, she was amazing to work for and then work with when I was running the operation. She looked at Erica and said, Erica, do I have a job? Meaning Golda. And she ran our top branch, and Erica said, of course you do. And then Golda said, what about Susan? And Erica got a little quiet. And said something along the lines of, we'll figure that out down the road, So I sensed then there might be an issue. But every branch I went into, this is an amazing opportunity for us. I'm very excited about Fidelity. So fast forward, week passes, we go on another journey of another handful of branches, same thing, introduce her. Third day we go, and these weren't consecutive days, and I'll never forget leaving Port St. Lucie, driving to Jupiter. I had a branch in Jupiter, and literally Erica said something along the lines of, I feel badly, Susan, you may not have a job when all this is over with. And I said, you know what? I knew that there would be a chance that I would be a taxi cab driver for you, just introducing you. Let's just finish the branch operation, and could we have the opportunity to meet when all this is finished, when we finish the tour?
Yeah.
Could we set up a meeting?
Yeah.
Because I knew at the time, and I said to her honestly, maybe I could work for agency, maybe I could work for the direct operations, I could go work for another company, but I want to work here. So fast forward, she talked to me, said, you know what, you really aren't supposed to be part of the team, and we were going to split up your branch operations. This is how we were going to split them up, and if we're going to work this out, we need to go to Jacksonville. You need to meet with Randy. So went to Jacksonville, met with Randy. And
for those
here
who
we
don't
are.
know who Randy is.
Randy Quirk.
Yeah, Randy
Absolutely.
Quirk is now our CEO.
CEO, yes, absolutely. So met with Randy, and I think I'm just going to go off on a limb here and say out loud in front of everyone that part of it was I really knew my operation.
Yeah.
I knew the numbers. I knew the profit and loss statements. I knew the people knew me, and I really was willing to put them in front of me, and I ran a solid operation. And I think when they saw all those things, they were willing to step back and say, maybe we've got something here, not only with the direct operations, but with Susan leading them. So here we are. We've had some tough times. They cut the state in middle back in 2010.
Okay.
I worked with my counterpart here under him. They gave 2 of the operations that I had on the West Coast to a counterpart over there, and we struggled to get through the difficult times during those times, and then I just worked my way back up again, and here we are.
Let's talk about your team. Let's talk about your escrow team first. You have an amazing operation, right? I've been a part of 2 operations personally, and seen many others as I travel around the country with Lisa Tyler and the crew, right? Talk about your escrow team real quick, and then but leave some time because I want to talk about that sales team as well. Because I know you could go on and on about
Absolutely.
this.
So we have 19 operations, and honestly, Bill, we've just really created leaders. There was a time in our industry, as you and I discussed earlier today, that managers weren't necessarily people nor leaders. They carried big desks with big closing loads.
Right.
And they were historically promoted because of their big desk and their big closing loads.
Right.
So initially, when I first came into this role, really worked on developing leaders and identifying managers and leaders versus the people with the biggest closing load. So put people in roles that they can exceed and excel in, and that's really where we started. And then a handful of years ago, we began to really realize that after 2010, 11, a lot of people that were in the industry got out, and they went into different industries, and they didn't want to come back, right? Because those were tough times for us. So we started to develop new talent. So I think I have done the best as a leader with my leadership team to develop new talent, mentor, develop, and coach people from the receptionist on through to processor, closer, post-closer, whatever role we need them in the escrow side. So our escrow team, I'll just say it out loud, is second to none. And they understand, we have the balance between understanding title because we have some depth in our experience, but our experienced people understand the value in the sharpness and the quickness and the aptitude of our new people. And I think we've done a fabulous job merging the two, between the talent and the knowledge and the youth and the newness and the aptitude. We have an escrow team that's second to none.
It is so difficult to pull that off. I've been in operations trying to do that, and it's difficult to do. I'm going to bring something up, and you can say, no, I don't want to talk about that, Bill.
All right.
but you had a great take on people and profits.
Right.
Do you mind sharing that?
Absolutely. I love talking about that. So for me, our culture over the years has been established to appreciate and respect people while appreciate and respect profit. And I don't apologize for either one. We use the word love. We use the word family, but I'm also running a business. And I don't think you can make any decisions that profit takes precedence over people, but you also can't have prima donnas that take precedence over profit. I believe we've created a true balance, and listen, every now and then we don't get one of those right. But I also believe in being honest about the mistakes we make and fixing them, whether it's me making the mistake or somebody that works on our team making the mistake, we fix them as quickly as possible. But I hold my head high to say it's about people and profit, and they are equally as important to each other because we're a publicly traded company and this is a business. But we are family and we do love each other very, very much. And everyone I interview, I say the same thing to them because I mean it. I want to impact them personally and professionally in a way that after their time in our company, they know that they've had a drastic change to their life that they wouldn't have otherwise had if they hadn't have worked on their team. And by the way, that doesn't work for everybody, and not everybody enjoys working under my leadership or under my leadership team. But the ones that do.
Yeah, and you're going to identify those people, that they're going to self-identify very quickly.
And when I don't identify them, they identify themselves for me.
So for the last year, I've been working with your team, and I've got to meet some really great salespeople. I want you to talk about the fact that as a county manager, as a district president, whatever the actual title is, I don't think very many of them come out of sales. They come out of the escrow side, And escrow tends to favor escrow. And salespeople tend to favor sales. It's just kind of the way it works. So how do you, first of all, being a salesperson for you means there's no kind of like just faking it till you make it. Yeah, because you're going to have very specific things. So talk about how you identify someone who's going to be able to handle sales and what sales.
Well, I think because I have a mathematical brain, and I think because I came from running a mortgage department in some very specific areas, that I have that kind of brain and I understand operations, although I didn't ever do the escrow desk. I didn't ever perform that. So I think I have an edge because that's my background. And then I understand sales. I understand people. And again, go back to when I was 15. I think a lot of that comes from when I was 15 and just being able to absorb that. But I'd also say to you, being able to understand both has dramatically increased the ability for our branches to thrive. I just had a call today with one of my salespeople, business development executives, and one of my managers to say, manager, this is where you could have done better. Salesperson, business development person, this is where you could do better. And I'm here so you all can walk to meet each other in the middle so we can help change this issue with our employee for the betterment of our customer. And I'm not sure that everybody does that as well as we've been able to. And I'll add to that, Ashley 𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐯𝐢𝐲𝐠, she works the escrow side for me, and the fact that she and I are willing to tell each other the truth always. So she will come to me from an escrow perspective. I will come to her from a sales, but understanding the escrow perspective.
Right.
And we're able to, and now I'll watch her work with the managers or the sales team from a sales perspective.
Right.
And sometimes I'm speaking to the escrow side. So the fact that we do different roles, but we've been able to walk towards each other, just like I said, my manager and my business development person, Ashley and I have done that together. And she'll sidebar me and she'll say, hey, I'm wondering if because you did this way,
Right.
that's why our managers aren't responding to you. And I'll say, hey, I'm wondering if because.
Right.
So the fact that we can constantly be honest with each other and now we see things from each other's point of view, I think that's added tremendous value.
I was going to say that's a mandatory thing for you to have is an Ashley there to really handle that.
Right.
The difficult in the weeds escrow stuff. Although you've picked up quite a bit of it over the years because
I get offended when people will say, why don't you just do sales and have some, because I don't just do sales.
No, you
I
don't.
do both.
I've heard you really quickly go, we're going to do this, and that so we can get this fixed right now.
Right.
I've heard those conversations come out of you and I'm like, oh yeah, she didn't do escrow, but she knows it.
Well, listen, I know you switched this around on me, but I have got Jason in my ear saying 25 minutes.
So here,
Bill?
let me wrap this up with my final question I ask every guest. And
Okay.
so, if you could give one piece of advice to a new agent just getting started in real estate, what would it be?
Well, you know something, Bill. I can't just give one piece of advice. So it might have a couple little pieces of
All right.
advice in it.
Okay.
But the first thing I would say is don't get into real estate if you're not willing to work hard.
Okay.
And
That's
I would
fair.
also say you want to find somebody that you respect. Not that you're enamored with their success, but you respect their success.
Okay.
And they're willing to tell you, and you're willing to listen and follow through with what they tell you to do.
Gotcha.
So work
I like
hard,
that.
don't be enamored, and really be willing to have someone mentor you and make sure whoever you work with, they're really willing to mentor you.
I like that.
That was concise.
I like that. That was good. You asked a question and I interrupted you. What was that question you asked?
Oh, yes. Why in the world, after 20 years, are you leaving Fidelity National Financial, Fidelity National Title, a Fortune 300 company? Why in the world? And
Look.
we've been so good to you, by the way.
Yes,
Golly.
you have been. So, look, I there's a post out on Facebook today. People can find it, you know, and I talk about how much fidelity means to me. It's a very important piece of 20-year chunk of my life and my wife's life. We worked together really
Right.
as a team to get through that. But there's always been this itch, to work, to do something, to try to build something that's outside of the framework of a massive company. And so I have that opportunity. I have the opportunity to do something on a national level with a much...
Not in title.
Absolutely not entitled. It will
Okay.
have nothing to do with it. In fact, the way I look at it, Susan, I've got 23 sales executives in Florida that I know very well that might
Exactly.
be able to help me somewhere
Right.
down the road with
Yes.
this. I'll be able to talk more about it in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wait a minute. Will you be able to talk more about it October 14th?
Sure. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, okay.
So, Jason, can we put Bill down for me to actually interview him on the Closers platform
Correct.
on the 14th of October so we can learn more about the company, and we love you.
Well, you're doing a wonderful job. It's been so fun to watch you work in the last year. Thank you for everything you've done for me as well. So I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks. Am I allowed to end the show, or are you
No,
doing that?
it's all yours again. Yeah,
Okay,
it's all you.
good. Thank you all so much for watching Susan West on the Closers platform today. I will be back next Thursday, actually with Ashley Scipione, and we will be talking about construction loans and how they are impacted by title insurance. So stay tuned for next week. Bill Risser, a friend, a colleague, an amazing asset, and that's not changing.
Thank you.
Thank you.